one questions now. No, just.
No, I don't have a video out there. No, there's no video out there. No.
So how did all five of you meet?
Hey. Well, I just showed up one day and never left.
Oh.
That's true.
That's actually very true.
And you happen to know how to play the drums?
Oh no, actually, I'm from New York. I'm born and raised in Manhattan. I moved out here when I was 17, 18, and actually met Luke at a church.
Actually, it's interesting that we're doing this interview with just me and Danny, because these actually are the only two original members of Doxology. So we kind of started this thing. Or, I mean, I kind of.
It was a Luke thing at first. It was a Luke thing at first.
I had a rehearsal and I invited some buddies out to that I thought would be good, some musicians and stuff. And it was at the church we were doing the rehearsal, and Danny just happened to be there and like wandered over with a conga or something like that. Like, hey guys, I can play a conga. No, like you said, he just kind of showed up and hasn't left.
Yeah, just.
And I mean, for the other guys, obviously Gabriel is my brother, Gabriel McPherson. He plays keyboards and does background vocals and is instrumental in the writing and the production. He's just a master producer. And all the orchestrations are him. He's fantastic.
He writes plays. Dude does everything.
He's fantastic. So obviously that's my brother, and he was he's an actor and was in Mamma Mia, and actually I somehow convinced him to come and join the band. I don't know how.
Yeah.
And, Michael, our guitar player, I went to college with. He played guitar for the jazz choir that I was in, because I was a jazz nerd back in the day.
It's okay.
And then Derek is just a guy. We didn't have a bass player forever. We had musical bass player, as in musical chairs. We just couldn't fill that slot. Derek's a guy that I just had his number in my phone for like 6 months, and we needed a bass player, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? And I called him up, and he came in, and it was just it just worked. He just fit in really well.
How long over like a time span was it that it took you guys to all finally become Doxology?
I kind of started down a journey of trying to put a band together probably about 6 years ago.
Yeah, it was about 6 years.
There's a couple of different members that have been in and out throughout the first year or two, but I would say we've been solid together as a band for the past 4 years or so. Yeah.
Your brother, Brian.
Yes.
He passed away in September of 2009.
Yes.
And I know, because my brother passed away about actually a month before yours did. I would expect that it would affect your artistic output, or how things get written, or how, because I mean that was right in the middle of you guys recording the album and getting everything put together. So how did it affect it?
Tremendously.
It hit us all hard.
And I'm actually wearing, this is actually something that my mom gave to me of this wristband. He wore this because he was a big time heavy metal kind of serious rock. He played bass, and he wore this every time he was on stage, so now I wear it when I'm on stage. So and it affected us tremendously. And you're right, we were in the middle of finishing it. I remember taking probably 2 or 3 weeks before I could even think about going back into the vocal booth, and it was really, really tough to get back in there. But it was kind of a thing where, Brian was just literally our biggest fan.
Yes.
Which was funny because he's a real, he's a crazy, crazy guy, loved all kinds of crazy music and played crazy music.
He played, but as an outsider, when he called me, Brian's our brother. Obviously, this is, that's brother, but he's the band's brother. And when he called me that day, even when I got off the phone, I just was in tears and was like, I can't believe this, And I can remember Brian, you'd see him at the show, and he'd be at the beginning with talk, then you'd see him in the back, then you see him at the left, then you see him up at the stage, and he was just, you could tell he's walking around and making like, I want to see how this sounds everywhere. And at the end of the show, he was, that sounded great, man. Well, this side of the room, sound was kind of, but dude, right in front, and he always had, the best things to say, great constructive criticism. He really cared about the band.
It's really tough, but he was and continues to be a big inspiration for us. And he wanted nothing more than this band to just succeed and to keep making great music and to have our music reach as many people as possible.
I'm going to ask the final question, and I'm going to make it as cliche as possible.
Oh, fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm good at. I'm good at cliches. Okay. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see Doxology in 5 years?
Well, that's a good question. That's a Grammys. Well, you said it funnily, but that's the goal.
Yeah, it is.
The goal is, we don't want to play in our studio and to, people around here for the rest of our lives. The goal has always been for us to expand as much as possible. We feel like the music that we write and the music that we perform has a pretty broad appeal, without trying to sound, you know, like, oh my God, we're so amazing. We think it's good, you know. We really like it, and people enjoy it, and we feel like really people that do hear it and respond to it in a serious way, and really like it. And you know, really our goal is to just get out and just get the music in front of as many people as we can, and and really that's really the goal, because we don't do it for ourselves. We do it partly for ourselves, but we want it to be heard. You know, we want it to have an impact on people's lives, and you can't really do that from your basement.
Yes,
you know, so you know, yeah, we want to be playing stadiums. You know, we want to be as successful as we can. And that takes time, and we're willing to put in the time. You know, and it takes a break or two, and so hopefully, you know, God willing, 5 years from now, we'll be, you know, a bunch of days further along on the journey.
We've all been working really hard at this, even separately. You know, before the band even started, I was in New York, and I'm out there working with the artists I work with. You know, I'm born and raised in Manhattan, went to Harlem School of the Arts, Music and Art High School. I've done that all separately, you know. And Luke, he was in California, and he's sending me stuff, you know, from California to New York. And I mean, I remember us having this conversation, you know, before Doxology. So I think we've all been working very hard in our lives to get to that goal, and now that we're together, you know, we know what we want to do, and we want to make good music, you know, and we obviously want to live wealthy doing it, but it really is about the music. It's about the fans. It's about getting good music out there, touring, you know, being that music that people want to listen to be happy, you know, to make their day better, things like that, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, we all want a Grammy. I want a Grammy in my house. You know, I would love a Grammy. But, you know, if we make good music, make a good living doing it, and really help people in their lives, whether it's in a good way or any way, they just want to hear good music, you know, I think we'll be happy that way, you know. If we can do music for the rest of our lives and make sure our families are good and everything else, I think, you know, we're going to continue to do it.
'Cause I can build a million airplanes in the time that I have spent thinking about you. And I could think of a million other ways I could say that I just wanna be around.